in terms of the professional qualifications. We realize that there is a big skills gap within the police service. And so, as we carry out the vetting, we are also noting who has got very specialized qualities. For example, you heard and you saw, there is an officer who is a qualified pilot. Yeah. But we've given him, he's been doing a job that is not related to that. We've already identified him. We've identified others who have got bachelor's degrees and master's degrees in human resource management. We know where we think they should fit in the police service. There are others who hold very good qualifications in economics. We know where they should go to in terms of placing them where they will carry out the planning function. So that is part of the reason for this vetting exercise. Now, the other reason, and that one is not part of the vetting, you talked about housing. Mm-hmm. That is a very critical element. It's debilitating, it is humiliating to find police officers living in conditions of the kind that don't qualify to be a human living environment. I'm sure yesterday you may have watched and seen the Inspector General indicating the extent to which the government has focused on housing conditions. It will not be done overnight, but it is the focus. And in this, we've been greatly encouraged by the government, especially by His Excellency the President himself, who has given us very clear guidelines on what we need to do in order to improve police housing, including having to rent houses for police officers in order for them to live within the communities, particularly the senior ones, and also being able to go out and ensure that housing estates which can be bought or which can be leased for police officers, that is happening. And then the expansion program for police housing is on, and what is happening is enough resources are being looked for that, because if we do not motivate police officers by giving them an environment where they live and work comfortably, we're actually saying we cannot have the best and keep them.
One of the reasons why women may not necessarily be policemen, you may employ a police constable from the village. She gets married by maybe a teacher or somebody else not even the police. The working conditions for a married policewoman, they're not encouraging.
True.
Because if you're a married woman and you are meant to go to sleep at the station, the husband may not be very pleased about that. Mm-hmm. So how do you improve conditions for women to join, to encourage women to join the police force?
Just as I've said, living conditions are being improved.
Yes. What about other working conditions?
Other working conditions, in fact, it's good you're asking that question. And it is a follow-up to the vetting. The vetting is not an end in itself. After we have identified talent, skills, and we've been able to send home those who should go, and we've retained those that should be retained, the question is, what next? What next is that we are asking what value addition that officer will have to the service. And to do so, we must give them a working environment that is conducive to productivity. Office space, the ergonomics of work. Space when it comes to also the equipment, the tools, the motor vehicles that we need to use. And you've seen of late the government's effort in leasing vehicles. Yeah. A lot of vehicles have been leased, which has never happened in the history of this country. And we must credit this to the government, specifically His Excellency the President. That is his commitment. And we are happy as a Police Service Commission that that is happening. It should be very inspiring. And for the police officers, and that is part of the sensitization, you will not leave a woman officer in working conditions or in living conditions that subject that woman officer to humiliation. And that's why we said that gender mainstreaming has a lot to do with sensitizing the managers in the police service to appreciate that there is something special about the woman police officer. There is something special in the sense that the sense of family also starts with the woman police officer. The same way we treat doctors or nurses or teachers, we would like it to be extended to police officers. I am, and my commission is particularly sensitive to that, because there is no way we will be able to promote professionalism if we do not look at those aspects that make the police officer's job as competitive as any other profession.
If you go to any police station in the countryside, the first thing you notice is furniture, dilapidated furniture, and lack of it. If it's there, it's completely, I cannot understand why policemen have no space even to work. But first of all, policemen have a lot of customers. People who go there to report, they are always standing outside. So there will be a crowd of people. A police station like a marketplace, including in Kilimani Police, where I was the other day.
Yes.
You go and see a lot of people standing out there because they have nowhere to. The police, in fact, deal with them from outside, not in the office. So there's no furniture, there is no space, and there is no even writing material.
I agree, and that is part of that's the part of the reason why we are sending out very strong signals, including to Parliament, to indicate that you expect good services from police officers. We need enough money voted, because the planning is done elaborately. Estimates are presented by the police to the Treasury. Parliament is expected to look at it and say, what is top in our priority? You cannot carry out any business or any profession if there is no security and safety. And therefore, the police working conditions need to be given the topmost priority rating when it comes to financing. Now, we are also saying that society also needs to come up and appreciate that just like schools, just like other facilities, they should not look at a police station as the responsibility of government alone. We are happy that in some places in this country, communities have come up and supported the construction of police stations, supporting the provision of certain equipment. And in other instances, like we've seen, some governors have actually gone out to buy motor vehicles that are being used by police officers. Those are very positive gestures, and we thank, like the governor of Mombasa, he's done a wonderful job. Others are beginning to follow. We want to say that policing is not about government shouldering the entire responsibility. Policing is not like other peacekeeping work. Police don't just keep the peace. Police should police together with communities to ensure safety, security, and for people to feel they are in an environment that does not offer any threats. So to do that, my appeal is that where communities need to come in, if you can build a whole school, and it costs a few millions of shillings, you can afford to help put up a police station in order for you to partake of the good services that are being offered at that police station. That is my strong appeal as well.
Okay, let's hear from our viewers. Mr. Chairman, apart from vetting the individuals, can you also investigate police departments which are involved in massive corruption, like the Kenya Police AIDS Control Unit, which is mismanaging donors' money, and that came from JB in Nairobi? Is that possible?
It is.
That beyond individuals, you'll look into departments?
Part of our mandate as the National Police Service Commission is to ensure efficient and effective functioning of the National Police Service. But we cannot go out of the National Police Service because that is where our mandate is limited. We can't go to other departments that we have nothing to do with. We will have overstepped our bounds. But we will want to ensure that if it is about AIDS control and is within the police service, that is our responsibility. And we'll want it to be investigated. And we'll want to ensure that efficiency and effectiveness is in.
Respond to Ahmed in Eastleigh, who says, the Kavulundi team should not plunge this country into chaos and insecurity. If you send home or fire so many officers, do you want them to join the gangs who are terrorizing people? Let's be professional about this.
Thank you. I think we are being very professional. If we leave a person who is himself or herself not suitable to serve in the police service, we are saying that the officer should use their office, their equipment, their tools while in the police service, and use their uniforms to rob the society, to cause insecurity in society. It is better when a person who is not suitable to stay in the police service is given an opportunity to go out there and do other things. And in any case, we'll put in place surveillance mechanisms which will ensure that it is possible to track down police officers who have been removed from the service. This is part of what we really need to do, and we put in place arrangement that will have to ensure, and that is particularly the Inspector General, before he discharges any police officer, as a professional, he knows what to do to ensure that there is follow-up action. Now, that remains his part. But I would say it is more dangerous to have an armed police officer who is inclined to criminal tendencies than one who is out there.
Currently, we call it the police service. What measures are you taking to ensure that the victimization of junior officers ends? If a police officer is dismissed without proper inquiry, what assistance do you offer to ensure fair judgment?
That's a very good question, because it's part of what bothers anybody who is in the National Police Service, and the National Police Service Commission is focusing on that. Why are we doing so? You see, one reason for establishing the National Police Service Commission is to ensure fairness when it comes to disciplinary action, when it comes to promotions, when it comes to postings or transfers.
There's several questions about that.
So what has happened in the past is that at the discretion of an individual, a police officer is given marching orders. Not that police officers should not be given marching orders, but as a commission, it is our responsibility to ensure that you treat a police officer, first of all, as a human being, secondly, as a public servant, and a police officer belongs to a family. You have a family, you have been transferred. You should be accorded the opportunity to ensure your family is settled in a manner that is reasonable, rather than be told you are quitting the house today, the children who are going to school, you don't know how they'll get transferred. That is not part of the policy that we're now pursuing. We just like to see more humane treatment. When it comes to disciplinary processes, fortunately, today, the final decision is made by the National Police Service Commission. We do not do the actual disciplining, but it is our duty to ensure proper disciplinary measures are taken, because that responsibility cannot be given to anybody else. So a police officer who feels aggrieved appeals to the commission considers that and can rescind any decision that has been made at any other level.
Okay, an interesting one here. Mr. Kavulundi, as a professional educationist, what are you doing about communication skills? 80% of the people we heard could not complete a sentence.
Communication skills are...
Within the police?
Yes.
Yes.
Communication skills are acquired. They are learned. And if you don't possess the communication skills, it is simple. You get into training and you get yourself to improve in your communication. If already we have a very senior officer who is incapable of communicating coherently, that simply means that the officer need not be given responsibilities that come close to communication. But in the lower cadre, communication is an essential ingredient in the training programs that are being offered. But it's also good to recognize that if you went into the police service at a level where you are not prepared and you've gone through the ranks, it may be very difficult to correct such a person. You can't correct me, for example, where I am so easily. You know, you get to your 50s, you get to your 60s, you're almost stuck. But the younger people in their 30s, in their 40s, are malleable. And therefore, our responsibility as a commission is to ensure that programs for training, including training in communication, are put in place as part of the upward mobility tool, the assessment programs. That is
there a case for conducting the vetting in Kiswahili? Because some people did seem to be struggling.
And those are very senior people. I mean, if they can't speak